So hi guys, it's Stephen from Sourced. I'm here today with Tina Walsh from Property Sourcing Compliance.
Hi everyone.
So we're going to do a quick Q&A and fire some questions over to Tina to get her response and get her thoughts on the market and the industry. So first of all, Tina, thank you very much for coming along. We've had a franchise training session today and we really appreciate your input. A lot of our franchisees have already commented on the great content that's come across. And one of the important questions, one of the questions that's actually come across, I think you mentioned at the beginning, I think it'd be good for our listeners and our followers to understand, should property sources be regulated and what your thoughts on that are?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for the invitation to speak. I've really enjoyed it, it's great, and I'm glad that your clients have really enjoyed the content today.
Excellent.
Property sourcing is regulated, whether we like it or whether we don't. We're classed as estate agency type business, so everything that governs estate agents governs us. We need to start looking upon ourselves as an industry of being professionals rather than just part-time hobbyists that make a lot of money 3 months in, which just isn't the case. It's a lot harder than is being taught in some areas. So yes, it absolutely should be regulated. We should be putting ourselves across as much more professional. And if we do that, I think investors and the rest of the industry would look upon us completely differently to the way that they do sadly today.
Yeah, I completely agree. Fantastic. Okay. It's interesting because obviously we deal with a lot of property investors and I think you're right, I think a lot don't see it as they fall in that bracket and it is very important. It kind of leads me on to my next question really in terms of from an investor's point of view. We deal with a lot of property investors and they ask us certain questions and there's no kind of formula to what they're asking us to do their DD. So it's important to see and find out what you see as important from an investor's point of view to check that the property sources are legitimate, and their money's safe. So what sort of advice would you give to property investors?
As far as an investor is concerned, the easiest things that you can check are the regulated legislation, the membership that they have to have members of and where they have to be registered. And as a property sourcer, you have to be registered with one of 3 property redress schemes in the UK, and that is the Property Ombudsman or TPO, the Property Redress Scheme or PRS, and Ombudsman Services Property. Now each of those sites have got the ability for you to be able to search their lists of members. So if a property sourcer tells you that they're a member of one of them, get their registered company name or their individual name, whichever way they work, and search the register. If they say it's a TPO, search the TPO list. If they aren't on it, then they aren't members and don't work with them. As well, they have to be registered for data protection, and that is governed by the Information Commissioner's Office. Again, on their website, search for their company name or their registration number, which you get when you are registered for data protection. That's the second thing that you can do. And thirdly, we must be registered for money laundering supervision. And once again, you've guessed it, you can go to the HMRC site and they have a supervision list that you can search by postcode and name of company. If they do not appear on those lists, they have told you lies. Go somewhere else to protect yourself or it could cost you an awful lot of money.
Fantastic. I hope you listen to that, investors, because that was really good advice. Make sure you check out who you're dealing with and follow Tina's advice. Really good points there. And finally, last one, because I know you've got to shoot off. So huge changes coming in May next year in terms of data protection, contacting clients, and probably big changes for property sources in terms of how they contact investors. How do you feel this is going to affect property investors, property sources?
I'd like to think that it's going to have a positive effect. For one, I'll be grateful for the stopping of the unwanted texts and emails in my inbox most days.
Yeah,
hopefully that will be the effect anyway going forward. But personally from our list, I don't know about you guys out there, but as sources we tend to gather business cards from everywhere, put them in the CRM and then maybe don't do anything with them. There's a lot of rubbish in the database that needs clearing out, and I think this will be a perfect opportunity for us to go through and clean what we've got. And at the end of the day, when you've done that, you will have a list of people that really do want to communicate with you, want to link with you, want to work with you. And to me, that means it's less effort for you, it's less emails to have to go out, wasting your time that aren't open. So let's streamline the databases that we've got, let's clean them, let's work more professionally, and I think going forward it has to be much more positive for us in 2018.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tina. Great advice, and look forward to seeing you again.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.